She walked into the bank expecting nothing more than a routine transaction. But within minutes, whispers spread, eyes narrowed, and the tension in the air turned sharp. A call was made, not to customer service, but to the FBI. Armed agents stormed in, their boots echoing on the polished floor, hands hovering over their holsters. Customers froze. The manager pointed straight at her. She stood calm, unshaken. What happened next would flip the entire room's power on its head and leave everyone watching in stunned silence. It was a crisp Friday morning, the kind that promised nothing more than a busy but ordinary day. Dr. Maya Thompson, known to her friends simply as Maya, stepped out of her black sedan and walked toward the tall glass doors of the city's oldest bank. She had been here countless times before, though not usually at this branch. Today was different. She was finalizing the transfer of a large sum, funds meant for a community project she'd spent years building from the ground up. Maya was the kind of woman who carried herself with quiet dignity. If you believe in justice, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a story that matters. Her posture was perfect, her stride steady, her expression calm but warm. She wore a tailored navy suit, her hair neatly tied back, and in her hand, a slim leather folder with all the necessary documents. Every detail reflected her meticulous nature. Inside, the bank smelled faintly of polished wood and fresh coffee. The air was cool, the kind that made you feel you'd stepped into a place of importance. She took a moment to scan the room. A row of tellers, a few occupied desks for client services, and a handful of customers scattered about. She joined the short queue at the counter, scrolling through her phone, checking emails. She barely noticed the man in the corner, tall, middle-aged, wearing a suit that looked a size too small, watching her from across the lobby. His gaze lingered far longer than a polite glance. When it was her turn, she approached the teller, offered a polite smile, and explained what she needed. The teller nodded, typing into the computer, then paused. Something changed in their expression, confusion, then tension. Without a word, the teller excused themselves and walked to the office at the back. Moments later, the man in the corner appeared beside Maya. He introduced himself as the branch manager, his tone cool, his eyes assessing. He asked her to step aside for verification purposes. She complied without hesitation. After all, she had nothing to hide. But as she waited, she noticed him whispering urgently to another employee, gesturing subtly in her direction. She had no idea that, at that very moment, a call was being placed. Not to a supervisor, not to corporate headquarters, but to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Maya sat in the small waiting area near the corner of the lobby, her leather folder resting on her lap. She checked her watch. 10 minutes had passed since the branch manager disappeared into his office. The quiet murmur of customers at the counter felt distant, almost muted, as if the room itself was holding its breath. She noticed the subtle changes first, the security guard repositioning himself closer to her, the teller who had served her avoiding her gaze, and the steady glances between staff members. Her instincts told her something was off, but she kept her expression neutral. Years in public service had taught her that composure was its own kind of armor. Then came the sound that shifted everything, the sharp, deliberate click of the bank's main doors locking. A second later, the muffled wail of sirens grew louder from outside, cutting through the morning calm. People inside the bank turned toward the windows, confusion spreading. 3 black SUVs screeched to a halt in front of the building. Doors flung open. Men and women in tactical vests and dark jackets marked with bold white letters, FBI, poured out. Their movements were swift, coordinated, urgent. The customers' quiet chatter dissolved into anxious whispers. Some pulled out their phones, others instinctively stepped back. Maya sat still, her eyes fixed on the reflection in the polished marble floor as the agents entered. Boots hit the ground in heavy, purposeful steps. The branch manager appeared suddenly, a hint of triumph on his face, pointing toward Maya. "There," he said, his voice carrying across the room. "That's her." 2 agents immediately advanced. One kept a hand near his holster, the other's eyes narrowed in a silent assessment. "Ma'am, please stand up," the first agent ordered. His tone was firm, unyielding. Maya rose slowly, not out of fear, but deliberate control. Around her, every eye in the bank was locked on the scene. The tension was so thick it felt like the air itself had weight. The branch manager stepped closer to the agents, his voice low but audible enough. "She's trying to move suspicious funds. Could be terrorism related." The words hung in the air like a poisonous cloud. Maya felt the weight of the accusation, ugly, dangerous, and far too familiar in its undertones. Her heart beat faster, but her gaze didn't falter. As the agents closed in, the hum of the sirens faded outside, replaced by a heavy, expectant silence inside. Something was about to happen, something that would flip this entire situation in ways no one in that room could imagine. The lead agent stepped forward, eyes locked on Maya. "Identification," he demanded. Without a word, she opened her leather folder and slid out a single document, thick, embossed, unmistakable. The agent froze mid-breath. His gaze flicked from the paper to her face, recognition flooding in. He straightened instantly, voice sharp. "Ma'am? I wasn't informed you'd be here." In a heartbeat, the room shifted. The agents' hands dropped from their holsters, their posture rigid with respect. Then, almost in unison, every one of them stood tall, saluting her, not as a suspect, but as their superior. The bank manager's smug expression drained to pure shock. The silence after the salute was deafening. Customers stared, unsure whether they'd just witnessed a mistake or a miracle. Maya met the branch manager's wide-eyed stare without a word. She didn't need to speak. His own actions had already written his shame. The lead agent turned to the room. "Dr. Maya Thompson is the Deputy Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation," he said clearly, his voice carrying through every corner of the bank. "And she outranks every one of us." The bank manager stumbled over an apology, but it was useless now. Every whisper, every judgmental glance, every unfounded suspicion had been laid bare for all to see. Maya gathered her folder and walked toward the door. She didn't shout, didn't gloat. Her calm was louder than any words. As she stepped outside, the agents followed, holding the door in quiet deference. That day, no one in that bank left untouched. Some carried shame, others carried a new understanding. Because in those few minutes, they'd seen exactly how quickly bias could turn into accusation, and how dangerous that power could be in the wrong hands. The question lingered long after she left. How many more people face this same judgment, without the power to make the truth stop the room cold?